welcome back to another video, guys. Today we're going to be talking about the Metroid franchise. We've got some hot rumors from that dude Sabi that we're definitely going to discuss. We're going to talk about the last games. We're going to talk about what they can do with the Metroid franchise in total. Not just Metroid Prime and potentially showing that off in Nintendo Direct, but also what Sabi's talking about here with this brand new 2D Metroid game. What developer is going to be working on this, when we could see it, and so much more. So I'm excited to talk about the Metroid franchise. It's always been a franchise that I've played for years now. Metroid is old, 80s, right, with the NES. I absolutely love the atmosphere, the feel of the games. Now, I'll be the first person to admit I do love the 2D games more than the 3D games, but when it comes to the Metroid franchise, I'll always play all of the games, even if people think that they're not good, like Federation Force. I played that one, and also Metroid Other M. That one has some flaws, but I still think there's some salvageable stuff that they can use into other 2D Metroid games. They can take some of that and put it into 2D, or even some of the 3D games as well. So let's go ahead and get right into some of this information here, guys. We're going to start off with Sabi and what he had to say. This is a guy who's been known for leaking correct information when it comes down to Nintendo content and even other stuff as well, but mainly a lot of Nintendo stuff that he does talk about. So he states that the 2D Metroid game does in fact seem to be related to Fusion. Also sounds as though it's set for this year. If you go down just a little bit, he also states that the person I know has legitimately mentioned it being a sequel, I believe. So he's stating that it's related in a way towards a direct sequel to Fusion. Now, if you know the Metroid timeline has been stuck in captivity. No, the Metroid timeline has been just basically not progressing. We haven't really had anything since Fusion. That's pretty much just been it, and everything else is just been prequels or going back, because you have to understand that the Metroid Prime series are prequels to the original Metroid series. I do think that this would be a significant type of game. This would be a blockbuster for the Metroid franchise if it did progress the storyline. So I do feel that this would be a significant thing for the Metroid franchise, and I also feel that it would really boost the franchise's appeal if they actually got going on something that advanced the story. Now, the 2D game that we're talking about here, I think I know the perfect developer for this 2D game, and I'm pretty sure if there is a 2D game launching this year, like Sabi is stating, that it's going to be Mercury Steam that's behind it. Now, for those who don't know, Mercury Steam are the same developers who made the Castlevania Lords of Shadow series back on the PS3 360, but they also made a Castlevania / Metroidvania game on the Nintendo 3DS as well. That was exclusive to the 3DS for a bit before it came over to other platforms, and I think that Nintendo really liked what they did there. So when they stopped working on Castlevania with Konami because of that whole thing that went down, Nintendo employed them to make Metroid Samus Returns, which is a remake of Metroid 2 on the Game Boy. They did that for the Nintendo 3DS in 2017, and they saw a good amount of success. There was even a really cool amiibo set released with that game too, which also saw success as well for its detail and just for how it looked. I thought it was pretty cool to see that Metroid Samus Returns amiibo. Numbers are probably around 500,000 for that game. $40, as you guys know, 3DS games, 240p. I think they made a significant amount of money in that game, and they wanted to invest that into bringing something over to the Nintendo Switch. And I'll be completely honest with you guys, I think that I probably would have replayed Samus Returns more if it was on the Nintendo Switch and not on the Nintendo 3DS. And I saw a lot of people saying, hey, if this was on the Nintendo Switch, I probably would have bought it. I don't have a 3DS anymore. I traded mine in, whatever the case is, because that was right when the Switch was just getting so much attention and so many people were buying the Switch that 2017 year with Breath of the Wild and also with Odyssey and all of that. So if they move over a new Metroid game onto the Nintendo Switch and it's slick 2D, they have all the cool stuff that they had in Samus Returns, the gameplay improvements, everything they did with that game, and put that into a Switch title, that's going to be big. That is going to be really big, and we could probably see this being the best-selling Metroid game of all time. Well, maybe until Metroid Prime 4 releases. But I think that if this 2D Metroid game, this new one that's rumored to be coming, if it does release, And Switch, obviously, it's not going to be Nintendo 3DS, and the game is as good as Samus Returns, and it's getting the good review scores and everything. Expect this game to probably be the best-selling Metroid game of all time. Now let's go ahead and shift gears over to Metroid Prime 4. Could we see something from this? Is there a Nintendo Direct looming that's going to be showing off this game? What can we expect from Metroid Prime 4, from Retro Studios? Because Retro Studios really hasn't done too much since the original Metroid Prime Trilogy. I mean, they've done Donkey Kong, they've done some good things, don't get me wrong. They've helped out supplemental with different Nintendo games, but having their own leading HD game outside of Donkey Kong is something that they haven't done quite yet. But this is their opportunity. This is their time to really shine and say, hey, Retro Studios is here on the Nintendo Switch. We didn't have a huge presence on Wii U, but we're going to have a big one on Nintendo Switch. And when do you think that we can see this? Obviously, the bad news of the game was being rebooted and scrapped from the development team over at Bandai Namco, which Nintendo didn't say that, but pretty much all the information points to that. But yes, the game was scrapped. About a year ago at this point, that's when we got the announcement, and they said, hey, we're restarting with Retro Studios with a commitment to quality. So when they told us about it, that doesn't mean that's exactly when it actually started. So development with Retro Studios probably started in 2018 or so sometime. So that gives them more than a year, theoretically, of actually working on the game for Metroid Prime 4. So we could technically see something this year if it's the work after about a year and a half or a year and some odd months, maybe even going on 2 years at this point. If we finally see something at the end of the year, maybe the Game Awards, for example. So I do think that Retro Studios can get the job done. Yes, a lot of their former staff members have went on to other studios and done other things, but the nucleus, the DNA of how to make the Metroid Prime games stays right there. And I think that with Nintendo's help, and also with them knowing their long history with Metroid Prime, and really just studying and analyzing the games before and what made those games good, I think they can bring that over to the Nintendo Switch and have a really good game. We just have to wait and see if there's actually going to be anything for this year on that game. But I know there's something that a lot of you guys want to play before Metroid Prime 4 comes out to kind of set the tone for that game, and that is the Metroid Prime Trilogy. And this game is pretty much in infamy at this point, considering that it was probably supposed to come out a couple years ago, or at least a year ago or so. It was probably supposed to come out because Metroid Prime 4 was supposed to be further along and maybe even released at this point. But unfortunately, the scrapping and the delay of the game to change developers has probably put this game in stasis. It is frozen until there is an update on Metroid Prime 4 and they can release it in a somewhat comparable timeline, because Metroid Prime Trilogy 1, 2, 3 games, Metroid Prime 1, 2, and 3, all packaged up apparently in HD and ready to go. There were rumors dating back to 2018 about this game, and many people say that this game is absolutely real. But the thing is this, will we see it in 2020? Is Metroid Prime Trilogy going to be a game that we see? And I think that it will be. Could it be at this upcoming Nintendo Direct? Usually the spring or early Direct that we have? Absolutely. Could they wait for E3? Yes, they can also do that as well. Could they even wait for the Fall Direct? Yup. Could they wait all the way till the end of the year, maybe even the Game Awards, to reveal something like this, especially with the next gen consoles coming? Nintendo says, hey, we're going to have a splash with Metroid Prime Trilogy and Metroid Prime 4. If you remember, that's kind of how Bayonetta was announced when it comes to all of the Bayonetta games on the Nintendo Switch. Bayonetta 1, Bayonetta 2, everybody started going crazy. Hey, we got one more thing for you, Bayonetta 3 as well. So they could do the same thing, and that would be 3 years from when they originally did that with Bayonetta, which is interesting. We got to talk about Bayonetta in a later video. But with Metroid Prime Trilogy, I think that we are going to see it at this year at some point, whether it's a trailer or whether they just first reveal it, or heck, even way more information. It gets leaked somehow, because we haven't seen anything when it comes to screenshots or any type of leak of the game itself. But I do feel that Nintendo will finally reveal that in some way, shape, or form this year via Nintendo Direct, or maybe even like a Game Award type of situation. So what do you guys think about this Metroid Prime franchise? Everything that we discussed here, from the new 2D game Mercury Steam to Retro Studios Metroid Prime 4 and the elusive Metroid Prime Trilogy Switch rumors and everything. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Check out the links in the description below. Go ahead and give us a like, follow, and subscribe if you have not done so for awesome videos, daily gaming videos here on PlayerEssence. Also, make sure you check out our brand new secondary channel, the OJX channel, for anime, gaming, and funny skit videos on everything. So that's a lot of fun to do. So thank you guys so much for watching. I do appreciate it, and we'll see you guys for the next one. Peace.